Did you know Kamino was shown having starships playable on the map in the original Battlefront's behind the scenes video, but was removed before launch for its similarity to Bespin platforms and the map's already congested layout? Battlefront 2 brought back this feature in the story mode and even has an Imperial shuttle that uses a different model to the one in instant action, but this feature officially returned in the reboot much years later, even being the only Starfighter assault map that takes place in orbit, a nice homage to this feature. The originals campaign also had a space battle mission for Kamino where the Kaminoans tried to escape to other planets to help clone a rebellion against the Empire. This was also cut out of the game, making Space Kamino only available in Galactic Conquest. You might have also noticed that some classes aren't available until certain campaign missions. This was the same for the clone Jet Trooper in the original Battlefront, which was introduced in the Kamino story mode mission as a new class for the Republic, and coincidentally are the units seen as the standard assault and sniper class in the sequel's campaign mission Changing the Guard, replacing the rocket launchers with the class's respective weapons. This also happens in the Challenges game mode for the PSP version where you play as a clone assassin. And although the mission cutscene shows all other Phase 1 units being available in the battle, the clones only use one other unit in the actual mission, the Blue Arc Trooper, that now use the clone commander's minigun instead of their conventional rocket launcher as the heavy class. For some reason, the devs never included the official Phase 1 clone commander model, which looks the same but just red, as seen by the countless data mines and gameplay trailers. Even in instant action, the clones still use their Phase 2 variant. In fact, this one mission has so much elements not available in instant action, having the player destroy clone pods' life support systems, which does nothing in other game modes, and collect the clones' DNA samples, which are also on these shelves, as well as destroy flying starships with RPGs, which is otherwise only possible using the capital ship glitch. The gunships themselves also have 501st troopers in them for some reason, probably because they just reused the same one from Megiddo. And there's this leftover command post from the first game. Speaking of which, Kamino mostly stayed the same across both games, even keeping the core layout in the reboot, although much simpler. The original Battlefront only had one cloning facility area that was just 2 hallways and that one place where Obi-Wan sat down. While the sequel and reboot have these areas, they also added this power source generator in the main room and the life support systems mentioned earlier. And from the cut campaign mission dialogue, we know that the sequel's map was intended to include a clone pod room seen in the movies, a nursery area just like in the reboot, and multiple floors for the main building, some of which were the mission's starting objectives, as evident in the commander's second dialogue making no sense in the final version.
Before we leave,
And the mission feels like we jumped in halfway, starting off with this text and spawning us right next to the main entrance, then changing objectives when we get there for no reason. The reboot also has some Clone Wars references, which is always fun to see, with some smaller details like the ship landing pad from the films, along with the AWAs, which apparently were native to Naboo before being introduced by the Kaminoans as mounts for their travels. And this is definitely the best looking rendition of Kamino we've gotten so far. Plus, the map has a decent number of glitches, mostly just flying to some walls, allowing the player to see the inner workings of the map. The mini-map even shows the life support room on the wrong side of the second base, but glitching through the walls confirms that any extra rooms were definitely cut out, since there's nothing past the blocked doors. Though the second layer of invisible floor is still strange in itself, and might be related to the cut floor as mentioned earlier. Shout out to GamertagTOWELLIE for originally sharing this glitch. You can also go around the main building's dome roof, but for some reason this little square area turns your character invisible. And in the reboot, you can glitch into some of the non-accessible areas through a long process of wall clipping and avoiding out of bounds. You might have also noticed that the floor is reflective in Battlefront 1, but isn't in the sequel. That's because, by glitching through the walls, it shows another layer underneath the main floor, meaning it's actually transparent, not reflective. Which is why we can see this gonk droid in the ground's reflection, even though it's not on our level. Shout out to user Prognosis for sharing this. Plus, it's the best feeling pushing things off the platforms, especially Jedi in the original, since they just love to reload their lightsabers all the time, which is fitting why the jet troopers were introduced in this map, since it's by far the fastest way to get around the big gaps if you can avoid the ridiculous number of turrets. Speaking of which, you probably didn't notice that the 501st Jet Trooper isn't based on any direct appearance in the films. That's because it was actually Commander Gree's original design as seen in the art book of episode 3, hence why they share the same same visor color and chrome shading among other details. In fact, as seen in the reboot, the 41st Battalion used their scout armor variation specifically for the Battle of Kashyyyk. Their normal patterns are reminiscent of other clone legions, including Commander Gree, which looks like this in the comics. Just one of many cool facts about Kashyyyk in the Battlefront games. Find out more in this video here.